The music industry in the United States has just delivered a statement that sent shockwaves across continents, across fandoms, and across generations of listeners who thought they had already seen everything. In a development that few predicted but many passionately debated, American media voices, chart analysts, and industry insiders have begun placing Jungkook of BTS in the same league of chart dominance as Billie Eilish. Yes, that Billie Eilish, the Grammy-sweeping, record-breaking, cultural phenomenon who reshaped alternative pop for an entire generation. And now, in conversations that are growing louder by the day, Jungkook's name stands right beside hers. For years, skeptics attempted to box Jungkook into a single narrative: K-pop idol, boy band member, global heartthrob. But what happens when those labels become too small? What happens when the numbers stop being impressive for a K-pop act and start being simply impressive, period? The United States, the world's most competitive music market, is now grappling with that very question. It did not happen overnight. Jungkook's rise as a solo force has been a masterclass in patience, strategy, and raw talent. From viral covers that showcased his pristine vocals to official solo releases that exploded across streaming platforms, every step seemed to build towards something bigger. His singles didn't just debut strongly, they lingered. They climbed. They broke barriers that once seemed reserved for Western pop royalty. Radio stations that once hesitated began placing him into heavy rotation. Playlists once dominated by American and British acts made space for him at the top. And then the comparisons started. Industry commentators began noticing patterns that felt familiar. The streaming surges, the digital sales spikes, the cross-platform virality, the global synchronization of fandom activity. It was the kind of sustained momentum that defined Billie Eilish's meteoric ascent in the late 2010s. When Billie emerged, she wasn't just another singer. She became a generational voice, dominating charts while reshaping aesthetics, conversations, and youth culture. Now analysts are pointing out that Jungkook's solo era is producing a similarly seismic footprint. Billboard chart watchers have highlighted how Jungkook's entries mirror the consistency once associated almost exclusively with Billie's biggest eras. Top 10 placements, multiple chart appearances across categories, streaming milestones reached in record time. The data refuses to be ignored. In the United States, where competition is relentless and tastes shift at lightning speed, sustaining relevance is often harder than achieving a viral hit. Yet Jungkook has demonstrated staying power. What makes this comparison even more explosive is the cultural backdrop. Billie Eilish rose from Los Angeles bedroom recordings to Grammy domination, becoming an emblem of authenticity and Gen Z introspection. Jungkook, raised within the hyper-competitive world of Korean idol training under HYBE, evolved within a global phenomenon before stepping into his own spotlight. Their paths could not look more different on paper, and yet their impact metrics are converging. Streaming platforms in the US have reported that Jungkook's tracks are not only being consumed by established K-pop fans, but are also penetrating mainstream American listener bases. Playlist algorithms do not operate on sentiment, they operate on engagement. When Jungkook's songs sit alongside Western pop heavyweights and hold their own, it signals something deeper than fandom mobilization. It signals organic demand. Critics who once dismissed BTS's English-language successes as novelty moments now find themselves reevaluating. Jungkook's solo sound blends pop precision with R&B smoothness, delivering hooks that feel both globally accessible and emotionally resonant. His vocal control, breathy falsetto, and subtle rasp create a sonic signature that stands distinct, not derivative. American reviewers have described his performances as arena-ready and radio-perfect, terms long associated with chart queens like Billie Eilish. But the numbers are where the conversation truly ignited. When Jungkook's singles began debuting high on US charts and maintaining stability week after week, comparisons intensified. Analysts pointed out that chart dominance is not about one explosive debut, it is about endurance. Billie Eilish built her empire on longevity with albums and singles that refused to disappear. Jungkook's recent trajectory suggests a similar blueprint. The cultural symbolism of this moment cannot be understated. For decades, Western markets often treated non-English acts as niche imports, crossing over required dilution, compromise, or novelty appeal. Jungkook's recognition as chart equal to Billie Eilish challenges that framework. It signals that global pop is no longer divided by geography but unified by data, emotion, and digital reach. Social media erupted as soon as American commentators verbalized the comparison. ARMY celebrated what they viewed as overdue acknowledgement. Neutral music fans debated the metrics. Some critics question whether such comparisons pit artists against one another unnecessarily. Yet beneath the noise, one truth remained. Jungkook is no longer being measured by K-pop standards. He is being measured by global pop standards. And perhaps that is the most significant shift of all. When Billie Eilish first dominated the charts, she was hailed as a disruptor. Her whispery vocals, dark aesthetics, and anti-pop energy flipped industry expectations. Jungkook, in contrast, exudes polished charisma, dance precision, and vocal clarity rooted in years of disciplined training. Yet both share a defining trait: authenticity within their chosen lanes. Billie owns her vulnerability. Jungkook owns his performance power. Both convert personal expression into mass connection. Concert data in the United States further fuels the comparison. Ticket demand spikes, resale value surges, and venue upgrades tell a story that spreadsheets alone cannot. Fans are not just streaming Jungkook, they are showing up. They are investing. They are creating communal experiences around his music. Billie Eilish built a similar touring empire, transforming her fanbase into a cultural movement. Jungkook's solo stage presence suggests he could command comparable arenas. Industry insiders have quietly admitted that the American market's openness to global acts has expanded significantly in recent years. Streaming democratized discovery. TikTok accelerated virality. Language barriers blurred. Jungkook's rise benefits from this ecosystem, but it also contributes to shaping it. Each milestone he achieves recalibrates what is considered mainstream. The comparison to Billie Eilish also invites deeper reflection on generational impact. Billie became a symbol of Gen Z disillusionment and empowerment. Jungkook represents a different kind of global youth identity, one that is hyperconnected, multilingual, and culturally fluid. When American media aligns their chart dominance, it is not claiming they are identical artists. It is acknowledging that both command generational loyalty and measurable influence. Of course, comparisons always carry tension. Music fans are protective. They fear narratives that diminish one artist to elevate another, yet many observers emphasize that this is not a competition but a recognition of scale. In the high-stakes arena of US charts, reaching Billie-level dominance is a benchmark. For Jungkook to approach that benchmark signals a transformative moment. Radio programmers have reportedly taken note of audience response metrics. Call-ins, streaming-to-radio conversion rates, and listener retention all play roles in sustaining chart life. Jungkook's performance in these areas suggests his appeal extends beyond core fandom mobilization. Casual listeners are staying, they are replaying, they are adding his songs to personal playlists dominated by Western acts. Award conversations inevitably follow chart dominance. While industry accolades operate within complex political ecosystems, momentum influences perception. Billie Eilish's Grammy sweep once symbolized a generational shift. If Jungkook continues on this trajectory, could American award bodies face pressure to broaden their definitions of pop excellence? The mere possibility electrifies fans. There is also the economic dimension. Brand partnerships, endorsements, and cross-industry collaborations often mirror chart relevance. Billie leveraged her dominance into fashion, film, and cultural commentary. Jungkook's influence already spans luxury campaigns and global brand ambassadorships. As US recognition intensifies, those opportunities could multiply. Perhaps the most fascinating aspect of this development is the narrative arc. Jungkook debuted as the youngest member of BTS, often described as the Golden Maknae, talented in vocals, dance, visuals, and athleticism. Years of global touring under BTS built an unprecedented fanbase, yet stepping into solo territory meant facing a new test. Could he stand alone in the most competitive market in the world? The US charts are now answering. When American commentators publicly align his dominance with Billie Eilish, they are acknowledging that Jungkook is not merely benefiting from BTS's legacy. He is forging his own. For young Asian artists watching from afar, this comparison carries symbolic weight. It whispers that global parity is possible, that Western validation, while no longer the sole measure of success, can be achieved without sacrificing identity. Jungkook sings in English and Korean, navigates interviews with humility, and performs with a confidence that bridges continents. And what about Billie Eilish herself? She remains a powerhouse, continually evolving her sound and aesthetic. The comparison does not erase her achievements, it highlights the expanding circle of artists who can operate at her level. In a way, it underscores the globalization of pop royalty. As debates rage online, one question echoes louder than the rest. Is this just the beginning? Chart trajectories are dynamic. Momentum can accelerate or plateau, but the current data, the industry chatter, and the media framing all point toward a pivotal moment. Jungkook is not knocking on the door of US chart dominance, he is inside the room. The phrase, "Setara Billie Eilish," once would have sounded hyperbolic to some. Today, American analysts are using language that suggests measurable equivalence in streaming velocity, digital sales strength, and cross-demographic appeal. For an artist who began his journey as a teenage trainee in Busan, the symbolism is staggering.